All right. I would like to, hopefully you've all had a chance to review the March minutes. Was there any corrections?
I'll move.
Okay, Dan will move. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Jim. All right, Scott, over to you. Oh, no, first, we're introducing Casey Pitkin. She's our new administrative assistant. She has, a key to the office, her computer. We've got a monitor, keyboard, mouse set up in there. Scott just brought over the printer, albeit it probably needs new ink. And all the supplies that Dan bought. I don't know how long ago to set up the office, but we got them all.
All brand new.
Yeah. I went in and cleaned it up and I hung the Club Street posters on the wall, so it looks pretty nice. And Casey, why don't you tell them when we're just gonna start with some office hours.
I would like to do the first Saturday of the month, 10 to 1. It kind of caters to the people that if they want to stop in when they go get their coffee, but if they don't wake up till early afternoon, they can do that too. I made a poster. I didn't make copies because my printer was, but I made a poster to put up in the window, and I can put it up like at the post office, in the community box, and have the chamber put it on their Facebook.
Yeah, I think
So-
that's great.
Okay.
Good. All right, great.
Joe put it on our Facebook too, maybe.
Oh, yeah, good
yes,
point. Yeah.
Yes,
if you
and
send
Joe
it-
is actually going to meet with me, at some point, to go over the
some of the
website,
simple
yes.
things. So
Yes,
she's gonna take over making sure the agenda's up there. I mean, Joe is still gonna do all of the techie stuff, but he is a good man. But all of the sort of upload the agenda, upload the minutes, that kind of stuff, Casey can
Yeah.
do with just job aids, so.
Good.
Yeah, and Jim, did you have a point?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, are you fluent in bureaucratese?
well, not quite, but.
He will be.
She will be, yeah. Okay, great. Welcome, Casey.
Thank you.
All right, Scott, over to you. We've got 3 things on the agenda for you. Three quick things.
Three quick things. Okay, everybody's got a outline of the outstanding projects, report the other day, if you have any questions on those. Just trying to close out the LWRP for East End Park. Went back and forth on the pay app, made some changes. I gotta submit another pay app, as soon as this one gets approved for the final amount, so that one should be complete within the next month or 6 weeks, I hope. Working on so other than that, just working on Pivot Point quarterly reports too, LWRP quarterly reports due this month, so working on those. Still trying to get the final or the last pay app approved by Pivot Point. In kind service, going back and forth with some of the hours, but otherwise everything else has been submitted. I will point out that, and I put it on there, and don't know if anybody knows, but Mary. All the hours for the referendum and the bond, like the ad and the extra work the town is gonna pay me separately for. They didn't want me to absorb extra hours, so I included like the reporting on there because that's regular monthly stuff, but thing that was directly as far as helping out with the presentation, frequently asked questions, all that I kept separate and not put into your hours.
Okay, Northern New York Community Foundation.
I think everybody saw, they did give us 6 of the $12,000 request. They awarded half. Glad they awarded half because we realized that they're correct 501c3 when they called me to tell me that they were awarded, but couldn't give me the money. So the town is gonna accept the money and pass it through, whether they pass it through the French Festival or pass it through to you and then the French Festival.
Yeah, they can go right.
Either way.
They can go right to the
But
office.
also the town will accept the $6,000.
And just while we're talking about that, the accounting firm did make the error on the form. They checked the wrong box. They have admitted that they checked the wrong box. Carol gave them power of attorney to work with the IRS to get this fixed.
Awesome.
So, and they will do that at their expense because it was their error. So there's been some, Carol and I have had some communications. We didn't bury all you guys, but I wanted to bring you up to speed. And I will bring the town and village up to speed when they're here.
Until it's changed, you are a 501c3, but being a private and not a public. When if people want to donate to you, that they can only claim, I don't know the exact numbers, because
I thought it said 30 or.
30% instead of 60 or 70% if you're a private. You can only write off 30% of what's donated. You can't accept certain grants if you're a private and not a public corporation. So that's why they couldn't give the money to us. So it does need to be changed and fixed.
Yeah, and the definition is if most of your funding comes from public, you're supposed to be public. So it clearly is just an error.
Well, it's good we found out now before we were.
Tried to apply for a.
Oh, I
Because
know.
the state wouldn't come to us and say,
Oh,
hey, can
sorry.
you accept it and pass it through?
Yeah.
I mean, Max was nice and he called and said, hey, we're gonna give you $6,000, but I can't give it to you. I'm like, what?
Is it gonna take a while for them to change it, you know?
Unclear. I mean, literally, like, I think it might have been Monday that they were saying this is a letter we're sending to the IRS, so. Hopefully,
It'll take like 6 months.
Yeah.
a year.
well, I'm hoping that it won't take that long, so. All right, strategic plan.
Moving along well with it. I hope to have it to you guys the week before our meeting, so you can have it a week in review, and then our May meeting, do a presentation on it and start taking feedback. So I hope to have a completed draft to you a week before.
Okay, good. Yeah, and and then the plan will still be, and I know a little later in the agenda, we're gonna talk about the survey. But then in June, we can hold some public listening sessions and we can do the survey and then do the final in June. So we're in good shape for any grants that we will be able to apply for as a public or a private thing. Okay, and do you want to talk about the survey now, since we're kind of in that
Sure.
ballpark?
Okay, so I put the survey into Google Forms, and it's on, I sent everybody the link if you want to go in there. I know some people took the survey. Then I also sent you a document, just I copy pasted this charts and everything from the people that took the survey. So that's kind of what it'll spit out. It also will spit out an Excel document if somebody really wants to get in and play with the data. But I think for what we're looking for, I think it'll be fine.
I thought
You can do either the link or a QR code. It's not printer friendly, so that's the only thing. If we're gonna print it, we'd probably have to copy and paste it onto Word and print it and then hand jam it. So my recommendation, if we're gonna have public meetings, if we can just have the QR code help people scan it with their phones, or maybe have some tablets or computers available for people just to do it.
so.
There is an option to take people's email addresses, so we can say that that's an option, not required. So that might be another way to just generate some, contact information if we ever wanted to use that. And I think the only thing that I think we found is that when it says you select 3, you can click as many as you want, and there's not a way to turn that off. So
Yeah.
we can still say select 3, and the people that select 4, whatever, they get an extra vote, I don't know.
Yeah,
For a free thing, I think it's worth it this time around, so.
I agree. What do others think?
I think it's a lot better than paying Survey Monkey $750.
Yeah, I mean, if we were gonna use it multiple times, Survey Monkey would make sense, but if this is a once and, every 3 or 4 years, it's not worth it.
Anymore.
Yeah,
And we can clear out the data, so we don't have to restart a whole new survey. When we want to run the survey, we just hit a button, it clears it, and then it'll go, so.
yeah, I thought I had no edits. I went through it. I thought the instructions were clear. I liked the ability to do other. I thought it worked fine. I think Carol had a couple of edits.
Yeah, I think I made all but one of them I don't think I could do, I can't remember exactly what it was, but anyway.
All
Yeah.
right.
Did we, or did I miss, when we would show the results of that survey to the community?
I don't think we made it that.
I don't think we've gone that far. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question. I think what we'll have to think about is, so we're gonna have a draft, we're gonna modify that draft, right? So then we would have to think about, how do we communicate, okay, here's the new strategic plan, and this is what influenced it. That's probably one communications. What do you think, Jim?
Well, I was actually thinking of something a little different that would add to this. I think that sounds okay, right, first of all, but, I was wondering if there was an opportunity, we don't know how many seasonals versus regular residents here, I took the survey, I thought it was very good, but,
The only people that had the survey access right now is people on this board.
oh, okay.
I
so-
didn't send
It was
to
just a
everybody.
test.
It was a test to
And then
see
what-
how it went.
And then what would the universe be that we were looking to do with that?
How many? How-
Yeah. And to
I-
whom?
I think we have it active for 2 to 3 weeks and get it out. You know, if we have the QR code and the website you can go to, we can put it on Facebook, just like they did with this other survey. If we want to send out mailers, we can. I don't know if that's needed. I think that'd be a decision we have to decide if we want to spend the money on mailers. I don't want, I will not volunteer to hand jam surveys if we pay for them, paper copy them. So I'm saying that.
Yeah.
I don't know how many hours we want to have Casey do it. It's gonna take a while.
Mhm.
I just think, I know not everybody has the technology savvy, but if we set up even just some information tables or at some events, we can
Yep.
give them iPads and phones and they can, it's 10 questions. It's not many.
Yeah,
Won't
it's
take
very
long.
quick. It's a very quick survey.
That's what I think, but I think if we have it open for a couple weeks, it'll give us an idea.
Yeah, I mean, the only,
We could put it in the TI Sun if we wanted to run another ad in the
Yeah.
TI Sun
we could. I
with
mean,
the
that-
link or the QR code, whatever.
Right, because I mean, it was very quick for Joe to make us the one that we put at the bottom of our ad. To
This will
get
spit
direct,
out a QR code.
yeah, but no, I was saying even just like not at what I call a vanity URL,
Right.
something that's very quick, something you
Yeah.
can type in and not screw up. Is like tiny URL / CBLDC and,
Yeah.
you know, we get you there.
Well, I was really leading to what might be a complimentary thing to do if it's not a big logistical problem, but a tally, like a PO at point of sale, little attachment thing that might be directly for seasonal people. To do a seasonal, what would you like to see here in this town as a seasonal thing? What would you like to see? That might be.
Well, we can
helpful.
carve the data though, right? I mean, we can carve the data. So one of the first questions is,
Are
are
you-
you,
Seasonal, or
Are
are
you
you
s-
a full-time resident? A full-time resident or,
but we could say, I just want to cut for everybody who said seasonal.
maybe, I'm not sure.
You could if you put it into a spreadsheet.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll just ask them that
I
up
even
front
forgot
and then we could
on that
carve the
screen.
data.
Forgot, so if it's in there already, that.
And if we can do a spreadsheet, we can definitely parse it.
I guess why would you want, why do we wanna ask
Well-
specific questions for specific groups?
Well, yeah, I was thinking that seasonal people might be giving better ideas on things that might end up being better attractions or things that we don't think about as clearly, like, they might, I don't know, favor restaurants or might come up with an entertainment idea type of thing. So, and I was really thinking of mind surveys, which is just a list of 5 things you want to see, or 3 things you want to see, actually 3 things you want to see is the better thing. Where they volunteer a season what they'd like to see. Not to make too big a deal about it, but I think there might be some difference between seasonals and people who are here. But I don't know how to do the screen again. Forgive me. I forgot that there was already a separation between seasonals.
Yeah, we can definitely look at that
Permits, yeah.
data.
It might be worth even the simplicity of the first thing of doing that.
Yeah, it's easy enough. Once it's on a spreadsheet, all you have to do is just put a filter on and.
And then the other thing, this was on communication, we did hear a lot from prior discussions with people that they don't see here. In the community, they don't seem to see a lot about what we do or that we're talking to them.
Right.
And that the reason I said, how are we gonna express that, right? Might be an important thing of the communication gap that was cited, you know,
Yeah,
earlier.
I mean,
on.
that was what we were kind of hoping is the survey / the feedback on the strategic plan would be sort of our coming out party, right? Because we really haven't done that yet.
And one of the questions is, what's the best way to get to, I can't remember exact wording, but like, how do you receive your information?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
the last question.
Yeah, we had that in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that might help us know how to get to them.
Yeah, good point.
I don't know, but if they got the survey, we already got to them. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. But, you know, again, if we try different
Yeah.
ways with the survey, that'll be good. Okay, all right, next up, bills to be paid. I am Carol and Dave and Mary all in one tonight. All right, so these are the bills to be paid. So Scott, 28,1250. Our rent for 150. Christie Stumpf Rourke is $30. That was for designing the full page ad as well as the flyer for the referendum. Squarespace, we were due for our annual domain and web hosting. That's $276. Bowers was 8,000. That was the audit. And then a check to me for $898.45. That's reimbursing me for buying Casey's computer monitor, et cetera, et cetera. And I did get, 501c3, didn't pay tax. So the grand total of invoices to be paid is $12,166.95. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mandy. And second?
Second.
Thank you, Jim. All in favor? Motion passed. All right, good. Tell Carol I did a good job.
No shot. You might-
The second thing on the agenda under the treasurer's report, so we did Paris. We panicked a bit because it was more complicated than we thought, so we called in MRB Group to help us. And then all of a sudden they said they didn't get it. So there was this big flurry of stuff. It was their website. And so they had to have their programmers fix it. I mean, it was between that and we're not the right kind of 501c3. I think that's why Carol left town. I don't think she really was going on vacation, the poor thing. Anyway, they fixed it. It went in and New York State said, you were not late. This was our fault.
So
Our
the Paris website, that's messed
it was messed up, yeah. So, but we got it in. But in the middle of all of that, the discussion came up about, did we want MRB to do an audit of our website to ensure that we're in compliance? Probably Joe's done a pretty good job. Like he had a list of things and he complied. But time has passed and he's not 100% looking at it anymore. So we wanted to bring forward the idea that we would have them do that. It'd be a couple of hours of their time. And we've already got a $5,000 agreement with them that we approved. So they'll just charge against that 5K. What are people's thoughts on that? We just don't want to get dinged by New York State if we're out of compliance.
I think it'd probably be good to make sure that we're still. compliant.
Reasonable.
Yeah, is that standard? I mean, I don't think.
Yeah,
Is it?
I mean, New York State is really, really picky about what's on your website, which is why we make sure the minutes are up there and the thing is recorded and all of that stuff. So Tracy's just gonna look through it and just ensure that we're,
Maybe after a couple of years, it would be necessary, but because we're in year one.
Yeah,
yeah,
all the
like
staff
when
is
the election
involved
scrutiny.
and,
yeah.
yeah, no.
And I'm sure she'll go through it as quickly as possible. I mean, she knows her stuff, so. So, all right, so can I have a motion for us to do that?
A motion.
Mandy, in a second?
Second.
Dan, thank you. All right, finance, it's just me. I've already talked enough. Governance, anything from you, Bill?
Just one thing for consideration. So our bylaws say the governance committee and the other committee has to go ahead and meet, twice a year. But, as I laid out in one meeting, we kind of do all those things as a matter of course in our business. We might want to go ahead and consider the next round of the bylaws to change the language instead of making it exclusive. You have to do it twice a year. Really as necessary, something like that to give you flexibility, because otherwise, I tell you, the governance committee, if I was to call a meeting next month, we would just meet to say, we're good, closed.
Yeah,
And you gotta
The
do all the
only-
public
yeah.
things. It's kind of waste.
so the only caveat I would say that, I agree with what your point is. I would like governance to meet in like November or December and really go through everything, because then that January referendum says, this is it. So it would just get us, and I don't want to make it December. Because, that's like a terrible time to add an extra meeting. But so then that January 1st meeting where we're saying, in the big, long referendum, we would have that all
It's
set.
kind of when we went through all the letters back in about July, August timeframe,
Yep,
but by November, no later than November, absolutely makes sense because you're setting it up for
yeah,
that January. So we just take a little bit of language change and the next would be the bylaws.
Mhm.
And not a problem,
Yeah,
but right now it says two, it's just kind of a waste,
yeah,
so.
Might be a requirement too of the state, we might check that if you have.
Yeah.
Wants or something.
I mean,
Because there's certain set committees that you have to have. and
Yeah,
I think it
these
was
are-
When we were meeting with
They might
MRB.
have to meet, even if it's once a year, they might be a mandatory, you have to meet once or twice, I would just check that.
yeah,
before
can
we
you
say-
check that, Bill?
I'll check it and we'll
I
come
know
back.
you're like really tight with the ABO office, so
I am,
I'm
Yes.
tight with them.
all right, that's
Yeah.
all I have.
Okay, great. Club Street, Scott and Dan.
Open and brand.
I think the ad turned out really, really nice.
I do too. Nice job.
Yeah, I thought it turned out really, really good. It was very,
And it was right on the back page of a section.
they were good to us. Yeah, it's gonna cost us like $800, but I thought they were good to us and Neil and I passed out to all the places where the what's happening goes. Just so you guys know, I did go to the chamber. Cause Neil had a good point. He says, a lot of businesses have limited space. And if we're gonna put them right where the what's happening is, now you got two things on the counter next to each other. And of course, he's on the chamber board and I said, you can't ask, right? It's like, this is like the Farrell's like having like this meeting in the morning with coffee. And so I went to Nicole and I said, Nicole, this is the thing, we could put it inside of the what's happening and then, people would pick it up. And I said, but it is biased to yes, because it's a marketing piece. So you can make a call. She did go out to the board and the decision was that it was too biased, I guess. My words, not their direct words back, just they voted against it. Which was fine. So Neil and I went out and every time we went into business, we put our stuff on top and that worked out fine. So, but anyway, so we did go down that path. But what was interesting is one of the chamber members brought up, they didn't really have a policy on it. Which is probably true, right?
Yeah.
Because and even when I talked to Nicole, she goes, well, we're supposed to keep people informed of what's happening. And you could tell it was like a gray area for them. So I was fine with them not doing it.
I was just thinking though, and this isn't really for us to discuss, but a lot of the ads and stuff could be biased in that what's happening, so we could have just got a ad space in what's happening.
We
If-
could,
For future things, maybe that's what we would do instead of a separate flyer,
yeah,
is pay the chamber,
yeah,
Pay $100 to stick our ad in the net.
right?
Yeah.
No, really,
Yeah.
like that, because really, all ads are biased, right?
yeah.
No.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like the example I keep using is like, buy this Crest toothpaste, it's gonna whiten your teeth. Well, really not probably, but it
Right.
might a little. I mean, that's not marketing people. So, all right, good. Dan,
Yes.
town activities.
We did get approval from the state parks for the fence
Good. Can you tell me what it looks like?
for Tibbetts Point.
Just
It's
because I'm,
very similar to what's down at the East End Park along the riverside,
so low.
low. And, it's the, not
I
split
have
rail,
to hide my
it's
feelings.
two
Post and meet.
post and beam type thing, and then on the lakeside, I think it's gonna go back to
Tall.
the other. We did meet with George Robinson virtually, Paul and I, on Tuesday with, National Park Service. More layers and layers of paperwork. Now, we're in favor of all this transition, but it's gonna be a process.
Yeah, but at least the fence should be going in and we can get rid of the
Yep.
ugliness.
Yep.
Good.
So,
Yay.
other than that, we're cautiously optimistic for our referendum, and if it goes through, we're gonna get closings done, and the water's low. I mean,
Now's the time.
would be ideal.
Yeah.
Timing.
Okay, Pam said she'd be here by 6, so I'm going to skip that. Jim, anything on marketing? Anything new on marketing?
No, I think one of the things we were waiting for was this afternoon's meeting.
Yeah, we should probably talk about that a little bit.
Mm.
So, did you want to talk about it or?
Well, sure, you might know the individuals better than I do on here, but I think in general, it was to try to find some commonality more commonality with other groups, that are doing it better, longer. We've been doing it shorter on here. One thing that was missing, by the way, I forgot to say, was the Canadian side per se. They
Yeah.
didn't go much into that here.
Mhm.
But we talked about, they talked about things that are happening from A-Bay all the way down to here by and large. Clayton is really way far ahead,
Mhm.
and they're really organized, and I think there are shared waterfront, shared event, shared funding applications, things that this was a start today, I think, it was a good way of starting. And I think we're talking about getting to, the next meeting was September?
Yeah, in the fall, September, or late September, early October. We didn't have representation from Orleans or Alex Bay that Scott Gray wanted. Both of those. Scott was not here because the budget is late. But his chief of staff, JD, was here. And then 4 people from the Clayton LDC were here. And we all agreed, I think that, and Scott joined us and Jim, so it was Jim, myself, Scott, Paul Aubertine was here, and then Pam was here, but she was here as the mayor, which is why I didn't have to advertise. So I was playing the game. But what I don't understand is Clayton brought 4 people and they didn't advertise, but anyway, but they, it was a good dialogue. I mean, everybody agrees that we need to collaborate more. We're not sure, other than sharing, like their housing study, they're not happy with at all. Remember, we were hoping to ride on it, but Scott, you had a couple of examples that we might want to look, because I really think that's something we need to do. And it wasn't a lot of money, the one you talked about.
No, they were 2,800 to 3,300 that I've had a private developer do a couple for some grants we're doing in Watertown and in Big Flats, and sounds like they provided more data than what they got for $30,000.
Yeah, because they said there were like blanks in it and, yeah. So I would love to know, Scott, you don't know the mayor of Oswego, do you?
I do not know the new mayor. Billy Barlow was the mayor that did all that work. And
Yeah, I just want to know who they used.
I can find out. I know Billy. And
Yeah,
he was-
find out who they
he worked
used,
for them.
because he just, the mayor that was there waxed eloquently on that one thing that I went to.
How long ago did you go?
Oh, it was a webinar thing, maybe last fall. Was a young guy though. The mayor was
That's
young.
Billy Barlow.
Yeah.
He was done January 1st. He was termed.
Okay, yeah, no, he was definitely him. Yeah, see what you can find out. But I mean, he went on about how they did this analysis and then they basically filled every single thing they built. Like he was like, it was right on the money. So we wanna think about that. We
They
talked,
also brought up, I think, somewhat surprising to me, the effect of, household bills and, not being.
oh, the Airbnb
Yeah,
stuff.
Airbnb, sorry, on the Airbnb, which really surprised me on the regulations about it up here and properties on how they're being bought by these groups and individuals that I don't think here it's been grasped as much. I'm saying this because I don't know partially, but it did seem to have quite a big effect on their planning, their economic planning, their projections and things like that. And I thought that was particularly interesting about here because it's flooding here,
Yeah.
it's building here, and they're down the bunny trail a little bit with it, and they don't have a control over it, or it's widely scattered in different regulations everywhere. So that was an interesting thing coming out of there because it would affect how we do our analytical stuff.
That question might be something the housing study could get after
Yeah.
too, and answer for us,
Mhm.
like projections there, how many we have, how many is for our area. okay
What's
to
the,
have.
what's a good percentage?
Yeah. But there's not any houses for sale right now, maybe there, and
No.
I think a lot of them are getting bought up by Airbnbs.
Yeah.
Or private even, not like Airbnb themselves. but-
Yeah.
Right, so.
Yeah, but it takes them off the market for families.
Right.
The other thing they talked about, and it was a really interesting, and I'm gonna do minutes for the meeting, so I'll make sure you guys all get those. But it was about a group, Adirondack, Northern New York, something, ANCA, so company, corporation, committee, anyway, there's a C. But they have this consultancy where, they work with business owners about, when planning for when they want to exit. So they want to sell it, they want to pass it to their children, you know, that kind of thing. And they have all these different consultants that help them plan that out, like to make sure the business is fairly evaluated. They introduce entrepreneurs who might be interested in buying the business. And so this group is supposed to cover us as well. And so the Clayton's gonna have him come in as a speaker, and so they're gonna let me know, and I'll either let the new chamber, whoever the new chamber executive director is, or Nicole to reach out to our business owners to say, do you want to hear this speaker? Because it's free. So that's the kind of thing. I mean, obviously they have, first of all, Dipple has been doing this for years. She's full-time doing this. So anything we can just use that Clayton finds.
So Mary, one thing out of the meeting we didn't address, or I was gonna address it, but it's at the end of here, that, maybe one of the things that they, and we might want to consider a lot, is have a congressional rep here, because they reference a lot of times about federal money, federal pots in here, but a congressional rep, and I spent 6 years as chief of staff to U.S. Senator, and I know that the projects directors that we had underneath were always ahead of the game, and a lot of people never asked them about what's ahead around the curve, and that's important stuff. And when the congressional rep here knows what this group is, and it didn't seem that they were in touch with their congressional person, and I could be mistaken because they didn't say anything, but it's easy for the member to send a projects person out of their district office to sit on a meeting like this that we do. Then they're up to speed on what the group is doing regionally, and then you can ask of them either individually or collectively by calling the person on the staff and say, hey, what's ahead on the curve on this particular bill that they're gonna do here? And, you know, in my time, and this goes back a few years now, but we would get calls from freeholders in our state and others who would be asking exactly those questions, as well as the professionals that are hired, the lobbyists, to do that, right? And I never understood why we had to answer to the lobbyists as opposed to the people who are more important to us, the elected officials who determine whether we're gonna be in the primary next time around. And so that might be something on a minimal scale, just to maybe include. The
Well,
congressional
certainly,
district
we
rep
could-
there.
I mean, we haven't been to a point where we've contacted Claudia Tenney's office, but she's our representative for Cape Vincent. You know, I mean, we sort of stuck at the state level at this point. We haven't met with Walzak yet, but, you know, to even, like, because we did those that's how we got this Scott Gray thing going. But Walzak's out of, he's still actively deployed, right? But yeah, we should probably do Claudia Tenney.
Clayton has Claudia,
As do we, right? Yeah.
Alex Bay does not.
Oh, okay.
There's Stefan.
Oh, right, that's right. They split that up. Okay. But yeah, good suggestion. So another meeting, you know, this was definitely kind of a get to know you. They really are gonna do more to encourage Orleans and Alex Bay to show up the next time. The way we're gonna do that is I'll write minutes, everybody will edit them. Then Scott Gray's office will send it out and include them and encourage them to, you need to have a rep at the next meeting. So, we'll see what happens.
They're actually looking to do a study. What you call it?
Oh, she had a good name for that. Destination management
Yeah.
instead of over tourism.
Over tourism. They want to get away from promoting tourism as much as they do and more year round. They're trying to do a destination management study. Apparently Lake Placid did a good one in that area, so.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I think there's a couple of things, you know, destination housing. I think these are things that we need to start doing some kind of analysis to really, you know, further inform our plans.
So, question, and I think this is a town thing. So, you know, we're kind of dancing around the whole Airbnb, it's come up before, the challenges in the upward communities. We don't think it's a problem now, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but we're not really chatting about it. Has there been or can there be discussion on, I guess, presumably restricting Airbnb for sales? Because if we don't address that now, with the collective we, when it does become a problem, when houses become available or new houses are made, and it goes the Airbnb route, it quite frankly is a direct threat to our strategic plan for the broad lines of effort that we want to do.
Mhm.
It's better to address it now, see if there's appetite to go ahead and start, shaping that than it is, let's say, a year, 2, 3, 5 years down the road. I just wanted to offer that. I don't know. I think it's a town just because of where that would have to go.
Clayton
I don't
did
know.
reach out.
Huh?
Clayton did reach out to every town and village in Jefferson County
Yeah.
a year ago. And asked us to support, a letter to the county. They asked the county to adopt regulations. The county said, no way.
Right.
You do it on your own ability.
Right.
I don't know if the town can find out of that or not. I don't
We,
know.
we did not, it did come up, we discussed it. And to answer your question, if there's grants involved, if it's something the LDC puts together, then I think you probably could restrict the sales.
Yeah.
But privately held homes,
I know.
I don't
Isn't
think.
there a
You
bed
can-
tax? What's the bed tax?
There is, well, that's what I was gonna mention. There is right now in the state budget still, the state's going to put in some regulations about registrations and taxing, because right now they're not being taxed. There is some new regulations going into, it's in the state budget, whether it gets approved or not, we won't know for a few more weeks probably. But there is also communities that have done it by zoning, like you can zone where they're acceptable and where they're not, which would help with the sale. So if the town, and Paul said, I have no appetite for it, to me, when we were at the meeting, you could do it by zoning. You
Yeah,
could
it
create
absolutely is
zone.
controversial. It's exactly right. The individual would go and sell a property. But the reality is, just given where we live and like that, if it goes more B and B than families, it
We're
does
screwed.
undermine our platform. So it's like, and that's okay if that's a direction. It just, we just take that off street plan because we're never gonna get there.
And I shared it with everybody before, it might have been before you were on the board, Lake Placid passed some strict regulations because their Airbnbs were taking over all the housing market. So they have some regulations just about like number of days that you can rent, minimum rental, maximum rental. So like, I think they can only rent 120 days a year to a non-family member, 120 or 150 maybe. It's a minimum of 3 or 4 nights at a time. You can just be 1 or 2 off. So like number of parking spots you have to have, you have to meet certain codes, you have to pay a registration fee each year. You have to have your property inspected. So there are zoning requirements you can do locally. I think it would be tough to limit whether you buy a house for it or not.
Yeah.
How could you permit it? I wonder.
You could make them file for
You could,
registration.
yeah, you have to register it. I mean, that was the one thing Tim Malone said from Clayton was, there's some advantage if it is being regulated in some way, because there'll be smoke detectors, there'll be,
Yeah, you-
there was a list of things that, if you're going to bring people in.
From fire and safety perspective.
Yeah.
If you had a registration, make it safe.
And if
for
you
everybody.
limited it, if you said, we don't want any more than X%, right, no matter where it is, if you got the permit, when you're not doing Airbnb anymore, you give your permit back in and now someone else could have it, that would be a way to,
Yeah, look, and I know it's tough and it's emotional like that, and
yeah,
there's certainly arguments on both sides, but the fact of the matter is, one of the things we need to do is we need to attract families with kids.
yes, we do, we
period.
know that.
That-
You
that's
do
what
not
we
need
said.
people my age, okay? You need young families with kids.
You mean like my age?
So,
We did-
so, I mean,
We did say
You're
that,
saying
the
me.
more families you lose, the ripple effect of the
Mhm.
schools,
Right.
the volunteers at the fire department, the ambulance squad, like.
Right, or you try to, the reason people come is because there's restaurants and shops, and who's working in them? If it's everybody's an Airbnb, there's no employees,
anyway, I just thought I'd bring it up. I didn't mean to derail things.
No, this was this
It's been
discussion.
discussed,
Yeah,
nothing has happened.
Mhm.
We did not sign on to the Clayton thing, but yeah, I mean, it's a concern. There's no doubt about it.
But if we do this, if we do like a destination management study / and then a housing study, now it's not just, I have a feeling this is getting out of control, but I have data that says it's getting out of control or not.
We're not sure. I think that's the way to go, then we have some teeth in it.
The other thing I'll mention that made it a lot more controversial in Lake Placid is the mayor and 2 board members that passed the resolutions owned hotels and motels. And they said it wasn't a conflict.
Yeah, sure.
So
Guys.
Scott, would you do a little research on destination management studies? I know you've got some
I
good,
wrote it down, so I.
some recommendations on the housing. But if you could do that, that would be, I think that would be helpful. Okay, so we just got a couple more things on our agenda. Feel free to have a seat. We're just wrapping up here. Childcare?
She's still plugging along. She's had a couple meetings, still moving forward with land, has talked to the bank and this. It's still moving forward, and she doesn't really have any huge progression, but the grant, I think to get the grant. She has to do something by Monday for the grant application, like not submit it, just log into the website and everything. She's met with the, Jefferson County IDA.
Did Marshall get back?
Yep. Yep. I think she's gonna meet with Robin. So,
And she did go to the planning board.
yeah, she got to the
meeting,
planning board last night, and so she has some homework from that.
Yep. Don't we all?
Yeah.
Okay, we talked about the survey. All right, last 2 things, for new business. So there's information that's on your agendas. So we joined the, the New York State Economic Development Council. And there are 2 things coming up that we should probably send reps to. The first is in Albany. This is like a course, and it is a fundamental course on economic development. It would probably be really good if one person from our board attended. Does anyone have an interest in attending that? I know I cannot because I am leaving for a cruise in Europe the next day. And sorry, the chance between Albany and the Rhine is winning. And then there's the annual meeting in Cooperstown. They have not produced an agenda for that yet. They have all of the like, these are the fun things. Hi, come on in. We're just wrapping up our meeting, so have a seat. And have a cookie. I brought cookies. So if you guys would just look at this, I really wish we could send a rep to each one of these before we pay another year's worth of dues. I'd really like us to make sure that we get value from this year's. So if you guys can think about that and let us know. Anybody jumping right out of their seat right
I mean,
now?
I can take a look at my calendar, but the problem with someone like me is, boy, you wanna talk about, a rock with lips, it would be just sitting there. With
Yeah,
stuff just
but see,
bouncing
but
off my head.
this first one, Bill, the first one is like an introductory
Right.
course. And honestly, if we sent you, you would take like stupendous notes and we would all learn from it.
Doesn't mean I understand them.
Well, no, it doesn't.
So,
We're
but-
just wrapping up our other meeting, but come on in, Bob. Okay, so think about that. At this point, we would take privilege from the floor. Okay, I need someone to motion to adjourn. Bill, I got Bill. Dan has seconded. I'm going to stop the recording.